It is Monday. Oh, is it ever a Monday? Here on rawmike.richards.com, broadcasting live from the DKI studios in downtown Toronto. Coming up in just seconds, we're going to talk to the legendary Joe Bowen in Leafland. What are they going to do? Also, the U.S. Open. Boy, that was a bizarre tournament. And I got to be honest, one ugly ass golf course, at least in terms of the conditions, the players. The course was the winner. You want to know who won the U.S. Open? Shinnecock. The course did. We'll also take a look at some of the shenanigans in World Cup soccer. I know all of you who have joined up on the World Cup pool. Dave, I'm getting killed. I'm just getting destroyed. Anything that I saw happening, there's just been a lot of craziness, including Cristiano Ronaldo. Can you still argue that he's not the best player in the world? Because I think he kind of looked like it. So we'll get to some of that, and hopefully other things will work too, like the phone. Oh, look at that. That's the first thing that's worked today.
Wow, yeah.
Hello.
I'm looking for the legendary Joe Bowen.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
Well, do you really want to know? Because I got to tell you, I can't believe.
Sorry we're so late, Joe.
This.
That's all right.
The studio hasn't.
You caught me at a good time because I was halfway between getting in the elevator to get up here or getting trapped down there, so that worked out good.
Well, we're thrilled. I should say my co-commissioner from the Wizard Foundation. How about that for two commissioners?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the big paying job. There's no two ways about that.
Yeah. They couldn't find two other guys, I'm sure. But hey, Joe, looking at what is sort of top of mind if you're a Flames fan, part of Flames Nation, I would think for some it's going to be John Tavares as they rub their hands and think, is there
Maple Leafs.
Maple Leafs. Sorry, what did I say?
Yeah, Flames.
Okay, sorry. So it's just been that kind of day, and it's a good thing that we don't pack heat on the show. But so John Tavares, do you like the chances at all? Is it a possibility, or are we just blue skying it here?
Well, I mean, I'm sure the Leafs are going to do a presentation and try to entice him to come home, if you will. Now, they attempted to do the same thing with Steven Stamkos a couple of years ago, and Steven elected to stay with a team that he thought was closer to getting to the Stanley Cup final, and his decision was probably correct because at that point, certainly Tampa Bay was. It will be very interesting to see how the Islanders approach this because obviously I think Tavares is frustrated with having to live on Long Island, practice there, come into the city through the traffic and everything to get to Barclays Center. They're not going to rectify that with a new arena out at Belmont Park probably for at least 3 years. And next year they're going to play some games at the old Coliseum in Nassau and the remainder in Brooklyn. So it will be interesting to see how, if in fact frustrated he is with that and with the fact the Islanders have really gone nowhere and seem to be going in reverse. But the other aspect is that they have, signed with Lou Lamoriello, and Lou's a sweet talker. We all know that. So it'll be interesting to see how all of that dynamic plays out. But I think that certainly John Tavares would be remiss if he didn't at least entertain offers and see exactly where and how much people are interested in his services for next year.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Joe. You know, a free agent like this doesn't come around too often. It's a generational type player. We're looking at a top 5 player in the world. What would be the casualties, though, based on what the Maple Leafs have on this roster? Because if Austin Matthews is getting paid what Austin Matthews is deserved, we have William Nylander who's up for a contract in a couple of years. We're gonna be looking at more and more players. And Tavares is going to come in that, that top 5, top 10 figure. Surely there might be some casualties that, maybe a Nylander has to go. Maybe somebody else has to go. Do you anticipate that sort of thing happening as the domino effect happens with the Maple Leafs if this were to happen?
Well, if it does, obviously you're putting a key component of your core is going to be John Tavares. Then, of course, you have to identify who are the 4 or 5 other players that are going to be your core that you're going to have to get into the salary cap. And then you augment that with young players who aren't as expensive. And the one thing that the Maple Leafs have an abundance of right now, certainly with the Calder Cup champion Toronto Marlies team, is a lot of young players who are not going to be overly expensive for the next couple of years until at such time that they may have to be sold off the way the Chicago Blackhawks did with a lot of their players after they won Stanley Cups. So, I mean, it's sort of the damned if you do and damned if you don't. If they're gonna sign John Tavares, then they're certainly not going to re-sign James Van Riemsdyk and Tyler Bozak, if in fact that is a situation that they're thinking of anyway. But having said that, I mean, John Tavares is a pretty good piece to be a part of your core player, and you can only imagine what the Leafs are like down the middle if you had Matthews, him, Kadri, and whoever plays on the fourth line. That's a pretty strong unit.
We're in conversation with Joe Bowen here on rawmike.richards.com from the DKI studios in downtown Toronto. You know, you mentioned that Calder Cup win. I mean, that was really something. I think it's also a reflection, Joe, of just how sort of solid and the depth that we're starting to see with this organization that, you know, and as you know, we've both been around a long time. We've both seen, you know, the best and the worst of this particular team. But in this sort of particular model right now, you know, I think that is you've got now pieces of you know, some assets to deal should you want to do something, because you now have that depth of organization, which again is also a little bit of a mirror image of what they wanted to see. You know, just like Detroit was at one point. They're certainly not now, but they were at one point, and it kind of has this very similar feeling to me.
Well, absolutely. And you know, over the years, Michael, and watching other organizations, and I'll use the Montreal Canadiens as a perfect example back in the 70s and the 80s. And when I was in Nova Scotia and in the early 1980s, their whole axiom was you had to earn the jersey. You came out of junior hockey, and no matter what kind of a player you were, or high scoring or whatever, you're going to play in the American Hockey League. You're going to learn to play as a professional. You're going to learn to live on your own. You're going to learn to how to prepare yourself, both mentally, physically, and eating-wise and everything else. And you're going to earn the jersey, and then when you are overdone, then you might get an opportunity to play with the big club. But you're not going to be rushed and pushed. And that, I think, is an axiom that Brendan Shanahan has implemented into this organization, and it's a good one. And certainly the proof is in the pudding. They've got an abundance of good young players coming out of the Marley situation this year who are going to be knocking on the door, pushing for jobs. And that's giving them the depth that they can trade somebody. They can, for the lack of a better thing, William Nylander, there's a nice tradable situation. Is he good enough to bring a top-flight defenseman back in return? Who knows? But they have somebody like Andreas Johnsson who is knocking at the door that's going to be every bit as good to push William Nylander as well. So the whole idea of having that push from beneath is a very important part of any successful organization. And if you have a piece that you can trade and you have a piece that can fit right in there where that last piece went, then it's going to be a very big part of this organization going forward. And they've done that. They've done a nice job. They've augmented the Marlies with some veteran guys who are, being paid well enough down there, but they're also buying into the program to teach these guys how to be professionals, teach these guys how to win.
Joe, that's exactly the next question I was going to follow up on. We know some of those Marlies will be graduating to the next level. One in particular, and I'm kind of curious, and I know it's totally Maple Leaf reporter-like of me to say it, but I'm kind of curious about the backup goaltending situation because Gareth Sparks was the best goaltender outside of the NHL. And now he's going to be pushing for an opportunity to back up Freddie Anderson. Now, and I'm not trying to sit there and say Curtis McElhinney didn't do a good job, because he did an awesome job last year. And for that competition, that's one I'm starring when it comes to September 1st and everybody comes to camp. I don't know about you, but that's something that I'm kind of intrigued on, where they're going to go in which direction, because Sparks has earned the right to at least challenge, if not take that position when everything's said and done in the fall.
Absolutely, and his record speaks for itself. I think one of the biggest things was Game 6. He didn't play very well. Boy, Game 7 he played terrific.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had a wonderful season. He has been the best goaltender in the American Hockey League, and you at some point in time have to reward these people for that. I agree. Curtis McElhinney did a wonderful job. I think that if Garrett Sparks supplanted him as the backup goaltender, I think you're looking at Sparks playing a lot more than what McElhinney did in the previous couple of years as the back-to-back guy and that sort of thing going forward. So I think he would be in a position that he would be trying to push Frederik Andersen, and that's not a bad thing either. And if he's going to play a little bit more for Andersen, then Anderson's going to be that much fresher when the playoffs arrive. So I think that's a situation that really has to happen, to be honest with you. I think, David, you don't do this over the course of a whole year, and goaltenders take longer, as we all know. But Garrett Sparks has certainly paid his dues, and I think that he has to sit back after sipping out of that Calder Cup and saying, you know what, they owe me a good shot at this job next year. And I think that's something that will be within the organization going forward next season and next training camp.
Yeah, and I think great to see. The kid's got a fabulous attitude, too. I mean, he's just, to me, he's a winner all around. Now, Joe, if we're looking at the back end with the Blue Liners, what do you think in terms of what they would like to see and who stays and who goes? What does the back end look like for the Leafs in the offseason?
Well, I mean, every team is looking for that elusive number one guy. I don't know, even if you look at the Marlies and youngsters like Liljegren that they brought on and played very well this season and played a lot at the American Hockey League level, I'm not sure if he's the quasi-essential number one guy. But having said that, you take a look at some of the teams that got well into the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I guess the most important one was the Vegas Golden Knights. And the last time I checked, no one gave up a number one defenseman in the draft for those guys. They had a whole bunch of number 3s, 4s, and maybe a 2 that augmented their staff. So I personally, and this is only my own reflection on it, I would like to see our defense be a lot more physical, or at least have that aspect to it. And I'm not sure that they have anybody in the organization that's going to do that. Borgman is a bit of an aggressive guy, but I don't think that he's certainly going to be like a number one or number two guy that can play physical. Roman Polak tried to fill that role, but it's not likely he'll be back. So if there's going to be a situation with that defense that is augmented with it, they're going to get pushed with some of those kids coming up from the Marlies. But I think we're going to see some sort of a deal with one of the young forwards, especially if Tavares ended up coming here, to look for a defenseman with some size and some obviously skill, but also maybe a little bit of a mean streak attached to him. And when you took a look at the final between those two teams, there was a lot of physical play. And I'm not sure even up front the Maple Leafs have that. So I know Mike Babcock wants to play the fast game and puck possession and everything else. But every once in a while, you got to have some physicality, I believe. And I think that's one of the aspects of this hockey club that they're going to have to look at in the offseason.
Yeah, it's definitely part of that shopping list, which we definitely look forward to. Final question from me, Joe, and I know this is already a couple weeks old news, but it's still something that we're proud of. I'm sure you're very proud of as well. Receiving the Foster Hewitt Memorial Award for outstanding contributions to hockey. You got the call from the Hall. Could you take us into how you got the call, or where were you? I know when we talk to other Hall of Famers, they always have certain memories of of, oh, I was here, or I shared it with this person. First off, congratulations. It's awesome news. I know it's a couple weeks old, but we're talking to you for the first time. And what actually happened on the day of the call?
Well, it's kind of strange. I mean, obviously, I guess the bottom of the barrel has been reached.
Oh, please, come on.
I think my name was stuck on the bottom there or whatever. But Chuck Caton is the president of the Broadcasters Association, and Mike Emmerich and a couple of others are involved in the selection process. And Chuck, it was funny because we had been texting one another back and forth. I heard that Chuck was in some contract issues with the new ownership in Carolina, and I was kind of sending him a little note to kind of add my support to him and whatever we could do and help and whatnot. And after a couple of days of that, and about a week later, he phoned me and just said, are you sitting down? And I said, not yet. And so when I did, he said, well, this has nothing to do with our issue down here in Carolina. I just wanted to tell you that you are the Foster Hewitt Award winner for 2018. And it means a great deal, obviously. And I've used this analogy. I've watched the Green Bay Packers winning the Super Bowl with Mike Holmgren and Brett Favre, and they're in the dressing room, and Holmgren has the Vince Lombardi trophy, and his comments to the team were, every football player really wants to win this, but we're from Green Bay. We know who this trophy is named after. We live in the shadow of Vince Lombardi's statue outside of Lambeau Field, and so it means more to us bringing this trophy back to Green Bay because of what it's named after. Well, I grew up listening and idolizing Foster Hewitt and Bill Hewitt and Danny Gallivan and people like that, and to be the voice of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and really there's been only four as far as the radio is concerned, I guess. Foster, along with Ron Hewitt, who is no relation to Foster, Peter Marr for a couple of years, and then for the last 36 years, it's been me sitting in that chair. And so this award will mean a great deal to me because it is named after a former wonderful broadcaster of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I'm sitting in his chair, so it means a great deal.
Well, we're happy for you. And also, I should also give you a congratulations, because I thought as this conversation started with the Foster Hewitt Award, how is Joe going to somehow work the Green Bay Packers into this conversation? And you did it. And you found a way.
I did it. Well, but I know there was a bet on. I would have phoned David earlier, and we could have really got this in early. But,
well, it's a tremendous accomplishment,
awesome.
and again, I know where your heart is, and sometimes people are called lifers, but that's what you are. You've grown up in the rinks, you've called in all the rinks, and now your son up in Sudbury. I mean, that to me is also a wonderful story, because it's such a reflection of the importance of not only just the game, Joe, in your family and what it's meant to your family, but it's the culture of hockey. It's the thing that binds us all together. It's the reason why when the disaster and the devastation of Humboldt occurred, you're a part of that circle that understands and reaches out, because it touches all of us. It touched all of Canada, and that's to me, Joe, what the culture of hockey is, and it's how it's embraced in different families, and your family is a great example of that.
well, I thank you for that, Mike, and you're right. For the length and breadth of this nation, and the hockey community is a fairly small one. I mean, in retrospect, but very tight. And the Humboldt thing was obviously something that everyone rallied to, and not only in Canada. This was I had a young man who was involved in trying to get hockey going in Ireland. Wanted to know what he could do. Could they send something? And that was, that speaks volumes, because if you have spent any time at all in this game and gone at any level, you've spent time on a bus. You've spent time away from home. You've spent time being billeted by families. You've dreamt of being a broadcaster, and we lost one of those in that tragedy. So all of this, the dreams and aspirations of all of these kids were there, and it touched home. Whether you still have those aspirations, or whether those aspirations you've been told, no, you're not good enough, but you still love the game and you love the sport, and you're certainly very much attuned to what went on with that. And it was a tragedy, but from it all, I think a tremendous amount of outpouring and good has come from it, as only it could in a hockey community.
Well said. And thanks so much, Joe, for joining us here on the show today.
Yeah, it's great talking to you guys. I haven't this is the first time. I hope it's not the last.
Well, no, and we're also broadcasting from a bar, so don't tell Jim Ralph, because I really don't feel like having those issues.
No, we're liable to be down there fairly early. Well, the World Cup must really help you guys out, because they're opening the bars early, aren't they?
I don't know about this one. This is an interesting location. Where this is somehow I think it's illegal. I don't know what goes on in this place, but I don't know if everything's above board. Hey, and Ireland's not in it, so I'm not as excited as
that's right. So who cares?
Yeah,
exactly.
that's right. Head back to the golf course and have another beer. Hey, hopefully I'll see you this summer too, Joey. Always awesome having you on the show.
Thanks so much, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, Joe.
Good talking to you guys. Take care.
That is the legendary Joe Bowen, and always just a great guy. Really happy, and I'm glad, David, that you brought that up, because if I knew he was going to say something, self-deprecating, but the fact is, for most people who have grown up in this area, and certainly of a certain age group, that voice of the Leafs in their head is Joe Bowen.
Well, it's funny, when they made the announcement on June the 1st, and like I said, we brought it up because it's the first time we've talked to him since. So we're a couple of weeks after the fact, but nonetheless, still very exciting, and will be very exciting this November. It's funny, when I saw the news, I was like, you mean he isn't already in?
See, that's what
I
thought he was.
Yeah, I thought he was too.
I thought he was.
Like, this isn't right. I don't know. I maybe it's just me, and
because I thought I read it wrong when I first came in. I said, no, he's already in. He's in there.
I'm a Jets fan, but when I first moved to the city, obviously I knew about him, listening here and there. This guy should have been in the Hall of Fame 20 years ago.
Yeah,
that's how good this guy is.
Yeah.
So, but nonetheless, congratulations to him and his entire family, and it's pretty awesome that a friend is going to the Hall of Fame, and we look forward to that induction in early November.
So let's watch our friend in action. This is property of Sportsnet. They ran this during Game 6 against the Bruins, where they force a Game 7 in the playoffs, and it is great to see his work. And there's Ralphie, with him. But the fact that they captured really what Joe does, and the magic that is Joe Bowen, and just what that game meant to Leaf Nation, I guess I would put it that way. This is a look that you don't often see. So I thought, and again, property of Sportsnet and probably the Toronto Maple Leafs. Here is our good friend, the Foster Hewitt Award winner, live in action, Game 6, Leafs Bruins.
Flicked it right on, they score! Wee Willie Nylander ties the game! Far side, Hainsey keeps it in, tried to get it in front of the net, a backhand scores! Mitchell Marner! And the Maple Leafs are not going to have a goalie interference on this one. 2-1 Toronto! Bruins back. Great save by Brown, cleared by Kapanen down the ice. Holy Mackinac, Connor Brown! That leprechaun is flying out there. Krug, near side, pass to the other side. Across comes Anderson to make a save on Krejci. Krug shooting, Anderson has it underneath him. Holy Mackinac, it is an amazing bit of work as Marner escapes the penalty box. Long shot, blocker. There goes Rask to the bench. Empty net. Leafs get it out in center. To the line. Here's Plekanec. Scores! We're going to Boston, baby!
How about that?
Pretty exciting.
Joe.
Hurry up, October.
So much.
Let's start this season.
Joe has so much volume. Him and I had to do a remote when I was working for the Fan years ago, and so it was usually Darren and myself. John was a part of this, so it was myself and Joe Bowen, and of course because Dave, it's I guess Central Time, right? So it's now earlier. So now you're really getting up early. Joe just naturally has that volume. So there you are, getting up. We stayed up a little late. Was in Chicago. I'd never really done that. So we're going down to the morning show, the Drake Hotel, the beautiful Drake Hotel. And I'm like, hey, Joe, how's it going? Hello, my back on me, boy. I was like,
Oh boy.
What is
He's on 10 already.
Were you born in a pipe factory? Why do you talk so loud? But he is really one of the all-time beauties. You're watching, hopefully, ronmikeRichards.com on YouTube and the website. I got my fingers crossed for everything today because whoever the losers were in this facility last night, a Sunday night, had it completely destroyed. And Devin has to come in and put it together with duct tape. I think there's some Q-tips somewhere. I don't know how this thing is working today. We hopefully have this on because he worked hard to get this up and going. And so that's why we were a little late.
Just a tad,
just a tad
that
late.
happens.
But, hey, starts off with Joe Bowen. I don't have a problem with that. Some people have a problem with Phil Mickelson. Some people did not like what they saw on 13th. And I have to admit, as it came down live, I'm thinking, what? Did I just see what I think I just saw? Do I see that when we golf with all my other ham and egger friends? Have I seen that? Yeah, like 100 times. It's usually followed by two things. Either, fuck! And then it was like, mark me down for a 5. A 5? Okay, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, if we're playing with Louis, yeah.
Bogue.
Bogue.
Yeah.
Bogue. What?
Put me down for a 4 there. Yeah, but the ball, but you stick handled it. You just no.
You were on the green in 7. How did you get a bogey out of that?
But when you watched that, did you think you saw what you thought you saw?
It was weird.
It was weird.
He knew exact when he putted that putt that went left to right, and then he kind of marches over it. I'm like, he's not going to hit it, is he? Because a lot of times the golfers will hit it and they'll just admire it or watch it, or if it goes by the hole, kind of react to it. He motored over to the other side of the green, tap.
Like I've seen guys who don't like their putt. They know it's bad right away. They start walking kind of with the ball, waiting for the ball to stop rolling.
Eventually, yes.
Naturally,
yes.
Dave.
Yes.
Naturally. This isn't one of those pissy rules where someone who was on the course or someone watching in Afghanistan calling something in, to the Royal and Ancient or whatever, however that works. So the obvious question, and this is courtesy of Fox, this is property of the PGA. Here's the question.
It's a simple question. What happened over at 13?
Look, I don't mean disrespect by anybody. I know it's a 2-shot penalty, and at that time, I just didn't feel like going back and forth and hitting the same shot over. I took the 2-shot penalty, moved on. It's my understanding of the rules. I've had multiple times where I've wanted to do that. I just finally did.
Did you think the ball was going to roll off the green when you hit it?
No question. It was going to go down into the same spot behind the bunker. Wasn't going to have a shot. And I don't know if I would have been able to save a shot or whatnot, but I know it's a 2-shot penalty, hitting a moving ball. I tried to hit as close to the hole as I could to make the next one. And, you take the 2 shots, you move on.
Does it show disrespect to the championship?
It's certainly not meant that way. It's meant to, take advantage of the rules as best as you can. And in that situation, it was just I was just going back and forth, and I'd gladly take the 2 shots over continuing that display.
You're really admired around this golfing world, especially here at the U.S. Open. What do you say to those people that love you so much, follow you? Do you regret what you've done?
I've had an awesome day. The people here have been incredible. It's been, singing happy birthdays, wishing happy birthdays. The people here have made coming here over the decades an awesome experience. And I had, it's a fun birthday. I don't mean it in any disrespect. And if that's the way people took it, I apologize to them. But that's not the way it was taken. I took the 2-shot penalty, moved on, and there's not much more to say.
Oh, there it is. He said not much more to say. He feels that there was nothing inappropriate and it wasn't disrespectful to the game. Dave Bastel?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. We move on.
Like I know a lot of people.
If you're sitting there watching that, going, "Oh, I'm so disrespectful," go screw yourself. Go screw yourself. Really? That bothers you? Man, get a life. I'm just trying to figure out because I've been Googling it right now. What's the nickname for 10 in golf? Because I've never, I've hit a 10. I'm sure I've hit a 10. I don't remember the last time I scored a 10 on a hole, but there must be a nickname.
Well, after Snowman, what is 9?
Yeah,
I'd have never.
I know. Yeah, because 7 is hockey stick.
7 is hockey stick.
Yeah, 8 is Snowman. 9, I don't know. I'm trying to.
Because that's such an implosion.
Yeah.
That even when you golf with guys, if they get up to 8, I mean that's what you're saying. we're not on the tour. Pick up the ball and whatever.
Like I'm looking at golf slang on Golf Digest, and I'm just trying to just give me what 10 means. I mean, I'd call it a Howard check, but
that's not good for Dale. I think Howard Chuck's going, what are you talking about, Bastel?
Okay, I call it a Maradona. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like a 10, a double digit. Man, that's awesome. I think it's awesome, to tell you the truth. I just want to know a nickname for what putting a 10 on a scoreboard is.
Okay, so there's your question today. What would you call a 10? What is the appropriate nickname for a 10 score on an individual
You know
hole?
what we'd call it? We'd call it the Bo Derek.
That's not bad.
Because
that's not bad.
Because it's an older reference.
But if someone said Bo Derek, you're saying, yeah, 10. I like that. So there it is.
There
So
you
Dave
go.
Bastel says
There
Bo
you go.
Derek.
Bo Derek.
You Bo Derek the third hole or whatever it is.
Coach Frank says 9 could be a Gordy. I like that.
Yeah, Gordy. Yeah, Gordy.
If
That makes sense.
If you're in Montreal, it's a rocket.
You in this case, not good. Normally, it's, hey, you got a rocket.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, that's a 9.
If you're in Chicago, it's a Bobby.
Yeah. So what do you think? We're going to throw that out, and you'll see this on Twitter, so give us your answer. You're watching rawmikeRichards.com, hopefully on the website and or on the dedicated YouTube channel. Speaking of, okay, this was just always kind of a weird weekend. For me, it happens every once in a while because of when my birthday is, but Father's Day, birthday, as Vicky gave me that lovely message on the Thursday before we left. And it also was the start of the CFL season. And as I kept waiting for the game to be kicked off, and then of course the Lightning came. It's in Winnipeg. It is against the Eskimos. It's Strevner, the new quarterback. And then like the Charlton Heston 10 Commandments weather came in, and it kept pushing the game on. And eventually I had to tap out, Dave. I couldn't stay up for the whole thing.
No, me too.
That was interesting. So we had, should we start with the kick return then? Do you have that, or do you have something else up here? Yeah, you've got the kick return. Okay, so this is right when all this crap is happening. This is game number 1, but at least it had, aside from the excitement of Lightning, it also had the excitement of this, once again, courtesy and property of CFL/Bell and TSN.
This for an 8-point lead after 2 quarters. White the kick, and it is wide. Kevin Fogg. Look out here. Splashes down the sideline. Still on his feet. Kevin Fogg. He can go. He's going to go. He's going to score a touchdown here. Oh, my goodness.
The fans that stayed, they deserve that.
Near the stroke of midnight on the final play before a shortened halftime.
That was a beauty. Saw some number 5s in there, Dave. Mm-hmm. You know who that is in blue.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So there's your excitement. There was also something exciting in BC that actually
This was great.
didn't involve a player. But here's what I find interesting.
Should have hit him harder.
So that's Devin. I think that's the second one I'm going to go to. I want to go to the first one. So we've seen for years in different generations, different eras,
Perfect.
where a guy is going to walk on to a football field. Sometimes security gets him. Sometimes they don't. In this particular occasion, security did not get to him first. Once again, property of CFL, Bell, TSN. This might be the best hit of the weekend.
There's no security, man.
Yeah, very funny. Running in his underwear, no pants, whatever.
We'll call him Russell.
Yeah, there's Russell.
Watch the teammate come over and start laughing.
Okay, so in our world, that was awesome.
That was great.
That was so great.
And anybody that defends that and saying he shouldn't have hit him, you're a loser.
Okay, and
you're a big loser.
But Dave, where was the game played?
In BC.
Yeah, so
Losers.
people shouldn't. So here's now global television from covering the event. So this is courtesy of Global TV.
Knew this was coming.
They should.
I struck first.
You know what? This just sickens me. Here's the report.
Player dealt with a rogue spectator. While the venue says the fan was in the wrong, many think the player was too. Brianna Karsten-Smith explains.
This is what fans watching the BC Lions home opener saw on TV.
A little bit of a delay here.
But this is what happened at BC Place. A spectator jumping onto the field wearing no shoes or pants and running around until defensive back Marcel Young had enough. The sheer impact and the man's reaction captured clearly in photos.
Awesome.
As he stayed shaken on the ground, both the Montreal Alouettes and those in the stands couldn't believe what happened.
Everyone sort of found it funny that I got hit by a player, but then I think some people were sort of is he allowed to do that?
As the video circulated on social media, those concerns were echoed. Sports broadcaster Rob Fay posting, "I can't condone that hit. The fan is completely wrong, but it's not worth it for players to take those measures." And a fan writing, "Leave it to security. That's their job." But witnesses say there wasn't any around.
I like the fact that security took their time to get out there, sort of a bit concerning for player safety too.
A spokesperson for the venue says staff acted exactly as they're supposed to.
If they don't have an imminent threat, say something in their hand, the protocol is not to chase them and risk further injury to themselves or other people.
According to the team, Marcel Young is not facing any disciplinary action from the league at this time.
This is their workplace, and I personally feel it's highly disrespectful when these type of things happen.
As for the brazen fan, he's been banned from the venue for a year and issued a citation for trespassing. Officials say he cut his foot jumping onto the field, but they weren't sure if the big hit caused any other injuries. Brianna Karsten-Smith, CTV News, Vancouver.
So worried about people who now not only break the law, because that's what it is. When you go to those games, do they tell you, in the States, it's you get on that field, it's $25,000 or whatever it is. It's huge.
The guy should be thrown in front of a judge, and he should face some sort of, if it's trespassing or whatever it is, what the rule is. On the back of every single ticket, they actually tell you what you can and can't do for the most part. You don't enter the ring, the hockey rink, the stadium, whatever that field that the sport you're watching. You cannot go on it. And if you go on it, that's what you pay. The player was absolutely in the right. And you know what? Maybe he didn't have anything in his hands.
Maybe he doesn't know that.
He doesn't know that. He's not concentrating on that. And you know what? The other thing, too, is what's in his pants or his shorts or his underwear in this case. I don't know. You know what? The best defense of that is an offense, and I applaud the player for doing that, because it finished the situation right there where it probably should have finished about 30, 40 seconds earlier.
All great points, and look at it this way, Dave. So let's just say they tell players now to not interact with that kind of trespassing, that kind of interference. So you think that I'm going to sit there, and there you are, you're a defensive back for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and someone runs on the field and they come right up to you. And they're telling you to not do anything.
Yeah, bingo. Exactly.
You're telling me that's the way to go? Because I can't have you basically defenseless against, we don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And you're not the one that crossed the boundary. You're not the one that instigated the contact.
Yeah, you didn't see that defensive back run into section 35 and sit in seat number 17.
Yeah.
Okay? You didn't see that. You saw idiot who should have got a lifetime ban to BC Place or whatever the hell they're calling that stadium these days. Not the 1 year and a citation.
Isn't he? Is it a lifetime though? I think it might have been.
No, it said 1 year.
1 year? Oh, I thought it was lifetime.
They're not allowed to go to the venue for one.
That's lifetime.
Wow, lifetime. That's what it should have been. It's like, don't go on the field because you have no business being there. First of all, you haven't earned the right to be there. These are some of the best athletes in North America, whether you like CFL or not. Whatever it is, that guy got exactly what he deserved, and I would throw him in front of a judge, and I hope he would receive some sort of mega fine or some community service just to set up an example, because you have idiots like that go onto the field to go on a hockey rink at least once every couple of weeks, it seems. And you know what? This World Cup's underway here. I know we're only on day number, 4 or 5 or whatever it is. Mark my words, some jackass is going to go on one of the fields in the next month, and they should be treated the same way.
Of course, in Russia, they might have a different way with dealing with someone who's going to do something crazy in front of Putin.
Exactly.
It's going to be, and then a little thing from Putin going, Take him out.
that is the last place I'd ever want to streak.
Go ahead.
I wouldn't
try to grab some of the turf in Moscow in front of Putin and friends.
I wouldn't streak at a CIS game, but if I'm ever thinking, hey, you know what? Here's a good idea. Don't do it in Russia.
No, that wouldn't be a good move. So all in all, this day is sort of a crazy weekend. To recap, Stamps continue to beat up on Hamilton as they have 13 times in a row is how that worked out.
You know, it was close until the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but and Masoli, that's why he's the starter.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you see that communication between him and Johnny Manziel. This is all good. I think it's all still a win. I think the Saskatchewan Roughriders, there's a reason why Chris Jones is considered a defensive guru. That defense was really good.
Yeah.
And if you start taking away all those receivers and Ricky Ray is standing in the pocket, he ain't going to run out of it.
Nope.
He's not going to do a lot of running. So what do you think, Strevner? What did you take away from that game?
I thought he played okay.
For a first time,
you know what? He only threw just under 200 yards, so that's obviously not what you want in the CFL, because 200 yards is usually a good half for a quarterback. But you know what? First time in a pro game. He was playing in college like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Good start. We'll see what happens. But before we go, couple programming notes. Tomorrow, in studio, we have athletic health expert Peggy Konstopoulos, who will drop by. She's promoting a couple off-season workout regimens and what to do to stay healthy in the off-season, hockey or anything like that. Also, she has a brand new health food bar that we'll sample. So we'll have her in studio tomorrow. And on Wednesday, not sure if you guys saw it on Twitter, but on Wednesday, Liam McGuire will join us on the phone. We'll try the phone again, and we're going to be there on 10:30, by the way. Well, the show's going to start at 10. He had this awesome experience last week where Guy Lafleur picked him up in a helicopter.
I saw pictures. I saw the pictures.
Yeah, we're going to let Liam explain it, because this is the ultimate fan experience that he was part of. And Guy Lafleur, a lot of people may not know this, Guy Lafleur is Liam's favorite player of all time. And Liam basically knows every single player that's ever played hockey
ever
in the NHL.
Yeah.
And in the American Hockey League and the ECHL and the IHL and so forth. But Liam on Wednesday.
So tell me, Dave Bastel, when you saw that, what did you think? I know what you thought. And don't lie. I know it.
Should be another number 10.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Lafleur was great, though. I love Guy Lafleur. You can't go wrong with Guy Lafleur. And some of the Guy Lafleur stories, what? The ultimate.
I wonder if he was smoking, too. He used to smoke a pack in between, periods.
I know.
The good old days. So what's wrong with smoking? Thank you so much for joining us. I know most people watch it not live, so we're good with that.
We're okay, yeah.
And so therefore, I think we got to, as the studio continues to crumble behind me, thank Devin for coming in and
putting out the fire.
That was just.
Become the fireman.
The dicks that were in here last night, and I use that term maybe literally.
Well, there was a couple umbrellas outside the studio that may have been. Anyway.
Okay, so tomorrow, fitness and fun. And I'll bring in a big jug of rye just to show her there's another way to go about it, too. The wrong way. See you tomorrow.